Hello, welcome to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. For this upload, we will be reading 1 Samuel chapter 24. And it came to pass, when Saul was returned from following the Philistines, that it was told him, saying, Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-gedi. Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel, and went to seek David and his men upon the rocks of the wild goats. And he came to the sheepcotes by the way, where was a cave, and Saul went in to cover his feet. And David and his men remained in the sides of the cave. And the men of David said unto him, Behold, the day of which the Lord said unto thee, Behold, I will deliver thine enemy into thine hand, that thou mayest do to him as it shall seem good unto thee. Then David arose and cut off the skirt of Saul's robe privily. And it came to pass afterward that David's heart smote him because he had cut off Saul's skirt. And he said unto his men, The Lord forbid that I should do this thing unto my master, the Lord's anointed, to stretch forth mine hand against him, seeing he is the anointed of the Lord. So David stayed his servants with these words, and suffered him not to rise against Saul. But Saul rose up out of the cave, and went on his way. David also arose afterward, and went out of the cave, and cried after Saul, saying, My lord the king. And when Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face to the earth, and bowed himself. And David said to Saul, Wherefore hearest thou men's words, saying, Behold, David seeketh thy hurt? Behold, this day thine eyes have seen how that the Lord had delivered thee today into mine hand in the cave, and some bade me kill thee, but mine eyes spared thee, and I said, I will not put forth mine hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. Moreover, my father, see the skirt of thy robe in my hand, for in that I cut off the skirt of thy robe, and killed thee not. Know thou, and see that there is neither evil nor transgression in mine hand, and I have not sinned against thee, yet thou huntest my soul to take it. The Lord judge between me and thee, and the Lord avenge me of thee, but mine hand shall not be upon thee. As saith the proverb of the ancients, Wickedness proceedeth from the wicked, but mine hand shall not be upon thee. After whom is the king of Israel come out? After whom dost thou pursue? After a dead dog? After a flea? The Lord therefore be judge, and judge between me and thee, and see, and plead my cause, and deliver me out of thine hand. And it came to pass, when David had made an end of speaking these words unto Saul, that Saul said, Is this thy voice, my son David? And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. And he said to David, Thou art more righteous than I, for thou hast rewarded me good, whereas I have rewarded thee evil. And thou hast shewed this day how that thou hast dealt well with me, for as much as when the Lord had delivered me into thine hand, thou killest me not. For if a man find his enemy, will he let him go well away? Wherefore the Lord reward thee good for that thou hast done unto me this day. And now, behold, I know well that thou shalt surely be a king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in thine hand. Swear now therefore unto me by the Lord that thou wilt not cut off my seed after me, and that thou wilt not destroy my name out of my father's house. And David sware unto Saul, and Saul went home, but David and his men gat them up into the hold. In the previous chapter, Keilah, a nearby kingdom, is being attacked by the Philistines. David asks God if he should get involved, and God approves. Saul continues pursuing David. The Ziphites give Saul David's location. Saul and his men surround David, but they are forced to deal with the Philistines. The Philistines were attacking Israel at this time. The chapter that we're on now is 1 Samuel 24. After resolving the issue with the Philistines attacking Israel, Saul returns to hunt David again. Saul ends up resting in the same cave David is in with his own men. Instead of harming Saul, David cuts fabric off of Saul's garment. David follows Saul out of the cave and confronts him, showing that he could have killed Saul. Saul agrees to stop trying to kill David. Summarizing 1 Samuel 24 with a bit more detail. Saul returns from fighting with the Philistines, and he's notified about David's whereabouts in En-gedi. Saul brings 3,000 men with him to find David. Saul and his men stop so Saul can rest. He ends up stopping in the cave that David and his men were in, but David and his men were further back in the cave. So, in verse 4, David's men say to him, "Behold, the day the Lord told you he'd deliver Saul into your hands, you'll be in a position to do to Saul as you see fit." I also did not see where this was something that God said, but I could have missed it. So David cut some of the fabric of Saul's garment instead, and he tells them that it's not his responsibility to harm Saul, who God has anointed. So David and his men, they don't harm Saul. Saul leaves out of the cave. Verses 8 through 15. David follows Saul and confronts him, saying that he knows Saul wants to kill him. He tells Saul that he was in the position where he could have harmed Saul. He shows Saul the fabric from Saul's garment that he cut off. David says that he won't act wickedly, that he will allow God to judge the situation. In verse 14, we do see who is the king of Israel trying to catch. Should he spend his time chasing one who is worthless as a dead dog or a single flea? Because, again, David is King Saul's employee. David is King Saul's son in law. David was poor before he was hired to work for King Saul. And again, the only reason why King Saul is trying to kill David is because David is much more competent as a warrior, and he's much more respected. He's not cowardly like Saul is. He honors God much more sincerely than Saul does. And Saul is feeling some type of way because he doesn't look like the type of leader that he wants to be. Um, and maybe the status, the money, the control of resources, maybe it was enough at first. He didn't truly have the character he was supposed to have to go with it, but he did have all the things. But after a while, when he began to interact with someone who actually had the character, that was actually competent to take his place and operate in that role correctly, it totally intimidated Saul, and he wanted to kill him. Verse 16. After David confronts Saul and says, "Look, I have this piece of your garment. I could have killed you, but I didn't." Saul regrets his actions. He acknowledges that David is a better man. He acknowledges that David is going to be king. "I now realize you're surely going to be king. Israel will flourish under your rule." And Saul asks him a request. Saul makes a request to David. He says, "Swear to me that when you are ruler over Israel, you won't kill my family, you won't destroy my line of descendants." And David promised this because David is friends with Saul's son, Jonathan, and he married Saul's daughter, but he's been trying to kill David. Saul has been trying to kill David. So that's the disconnect. He's already tried to kill David 3 times, and he's tried to kill Jonathan, his own son, for asking, "Why do you want to kill David?" So after this exchange, Saul is regretful. He says he won't try to kill him anymore. He decides to go home, and David and his men go back up into the stronghold, which a stronghold is a fort fortress, secure place of security or survival. So that is all we have for 1 Samuel 24. Thank you for clicking on the video. I love you. Have a wonderful day.